Hey guys, today we're going to show you how to get this chainsaw and this chainsaw mount on your dirt bike. So let's check it out. So when you open your package from Gravitas with your chainsaw mount, you're going to get a goodie bag with your straps and your hardware, with the chainsaw mounting straps and also the mounting brackets to mount your chainsaw panel to your bike. You're going to get a pedestal, that's what we call this flat bent piece, and you're going to get this mount. So these are made out of 3/8, 3/16 aluminum. Pretty lightweight. The whole panel itself weighs 3 pounds. The assembly process is pretty simple. So first of all, you're going to want to just take everything out of the bags. We've got 4 metal band clamps. Those go around your fork tubes. You got a sticker. Stick that on something cool, or don't, or whatever. You've got a bag of 1/4-20 hardware. Now, these are your cut to length cinch straps. So when you go to mount your saw, go ahead, mount the saw, get it nice and secure, and then about 3 inches past this clamp, cut and melt the strap so it doesn't fray. But these are very long straps, so you should be able to fit just about any saw. And then you'll get the mounts. The mounts have a flanged plate. This is like a 45-degree flange, and then you have this 90-degree bent piece. These two come together in harmony. No, they just come together and they make the mount for your chainsaw. So you should see adhesive rubber on the flange that connects to your fork tube. That just prevents unwanted fork vibrations. All right, so let's get started. So we're gonna go ahead and dump out our hardware in a manner that we're definitely gonna lose at least half of it, as we always do. Fumble around here. All right, so first thing you wanna do is you wanna take your back panel here and your pedestal, and you want to back panel, pedestal, slide them together, lay it on its back, and then take 1 piece of 1/4-20 hardware and find the bolt hole right there. And then you're just going to take your washer and nut and just assemble the pedestal to the panel. You're going to want to use the thin nuts. You should only get thin nuts. We have a couple thick nuts here, but all these nuts are thin. So you're going to want to use those thin nuts to mount everything together. One thing to be noted, our panel works really well with one of our vertical stack packs. If you're going to be running a vertical stack pack, I advise that you take your bolt and you actually run it in the opposite direction, so that nice smooth button head is touching your bag instead of the more coarse nut, because the nut will kind of make some imperfections. If you're not running a stack pack, disregard everything I just said. Alright, so it's a pretty simple 5/16 Allen head and a 7/16 wrench. Just want to tighten those up. We always say don't use power tools. You know, this whole thing holds a power tool, so I don't know how much we can actually say that. So use a power tool, just be careful. I can't stop you. Just be careful. Alright, so now we've mounted the pedestal to the back panel using the 4 bolts, 2 on each side. And yeah, that's the first step. Now, if you're going to be using this in conjunction with our apex panel, you can see that it bolts directly to the faceplate of our apex panel. Yeah, so you can use these in conjunction, put a silky saw or a folding saw behind here, or however you want to configure it, keep your lights up top. That's pretty simple. You're just going to take the supplied hardware and you're just going to drop it through the slots, and everything's going to be beautiful and fine, and there's nothing else to say about that. Put that to the side. So if you're not using the apex panel, the next step is very simple. Set this to the side, is to assemble the mounting brackets. So this is very simple. You can see here you got a 90-degree. You want to take the short end of that 90-degree. That's what connects to the panel. The long end of the 90-degree interfaces with this bent piece here, and this creates a slide so that you can get maximum adjustability back and forth on your bike. So if you needed to clear a trail computer, of course you can mount the mounts super far out like that. But yeah, these are really simple. We suggest, of course, this rubber side touches the fork. I suggest running it so that the flange here, so that the mounting flange is on the outside, just like that. So rubber face, slidey piece with the slot, your mounting bracket that goes to the panel, and then we like to keep it so that the mounting bracket's on the outside. That just hides the slot, just makes it look a little bit cleaner. It really doesn't matter. But, so yeah, now you're just going to take another bolt, washer, and nut, and assemble these mounts. Super simple stuff. Super simple stuff. And we suggest you leave these, snug them up, get them tighter, but leave them loose, so that you can get adjustability when you go to mount this thing on your bike. So I suggest that you go tight and then just back off just a little bit. That way you're not sitting on the bike for 10 minutes in an awkward position trying to tighten these things down, but also within a quarter of a turn on the bike, you can have this thing locked in. So we're just gonna snug her. There you go. Snug it up. All right, guys. So now we have the mount assembled. Like I said, loose enough that you can still get some adjustment out of it. So now I want to talk about mounting the chainsaw mounts to the back panel here. We've seen that on most bikes you can mount it with this flange kicked out away from the bike. You can mount it this way. It's not going to hurt anything. It might just make it a little bit harder to tighten some things up, but both ways work. If you had a really crazy situation where you needed to get this pedestal far over to clear a fender, something strange that's not on most bikes, then you could really play with the way you mounted these up, kick the panel in either direction. But for most bikes, you're going to be just fine kicking the panel, kicking that flange out away from the fork tube. And now we just find these two slots in the panel, and you just going to put the hardware in those slots. So again, one hole bolt, one washer, and one nut. You're going to bolt through just like that, washer, and nut. Bob's your uncle. There you go. Started. Again, we want to leave this loose enough that you can get a fair amount of adjustment out of the system, and that'll ensure that you don't have any issues. When you go to mount the panel. All right, guys. So we've got this thing pretty much assembled. The next step is to install your Scabbard. You always want to install a Scabbard. I know a lot of people run without them. Trust me, you just don't want to go OTB without a Scabbard. If you never go OTB, then that's awesome. But I go OTB all the time, and get cut up enough with the front tire. I don't want to get cut up with the chainsaw. So that being said, it's really easy to mount your Scabbard. You're just going to drill a hole through the center of the Scabbard at the height in which it does not interfere with your saw. It doesn't interfere with the pedestal. So as you can see, it's kind of like the edge of the Scabbard right there on the pedestal. Drill a 1/4 inch hole through, pinch it together, drill a hole through your Scabbard, and then you can drill a little bit bigger hole on the outside if you want. But really all you're going to do is you're going to drop your bolt through the Scabbard, and you're going to mount the Scabbard to the chainsaw pedestal. Now, if you don't want to mount it directly to the pedestal, we've seen people run straps from the Scabbard up around the handle of their saw. That's kind of a little bit more work. If you mount it to your pedestal, then you're not going to leave it in the garage, you're not going to leave it on the side of the trail, it's just always going to be there, and you want it there. The last piece of mounting this to your bike, and we'll move over to the bike after I show you this, but these are the band clamps. As you can see, you've got this bent threaded bolt. Band clamp is super simple. They lock in, you use a nut to tighten the clamp. The only thing you need to really pay attention to when mounting these band clamps is the fact that this little spacer noodle thing here faces up. If you have it in such a way where it faces down, you're never going to get it together and you're going to get really frustrated. So that T, kind of like a T spacer, needs to be pointed away from the clamp, if that makes sense. Pointed away from the clamp. When it goes to mounting your saw to your bike, we provided these super long cinch straps, and this is just so that you can get the ideal setup. But you've got webbing slots here, you've got webbing slots here. You can run it through any one of these molly panels. You can really molly blocks. You can really do whatever you want with it. We run ours through the slot in the back here, just like that. Super easy to get through. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to run this around your saw when you're setting it up in the garage for the first time. And you want to take a knife or a pair of scissors, and you just want to cut the saw, this strap, once it's mounted to the saw. Just want to cut that strap about 3 inches beyond the buckle. So, right, you got this thing going through the buckle here. Okay, you want to cut that strap about 3 inches from like maximum tightness on the buckle, on the chainsaw. And then you want to take the lighter, got a lighter here. You just want to burn these ends. You just want to burn those ends so that you don't, fray over time. So that's pretty much the bench setup of getting this chainsaw mount all dialed. Now we're going to move over to the bike and show you how to install it on the bike. Alright guys, when installing your chainsaw mount to your bike, you've got a handful of things to consider. This flange here on this mount can really go inside the fork or outside the fork. You can flip this bracket in either direction. It's not going to cause any problems. We have it mounted outside our fork because we find that that's the most sturdy, but it really doesn't actually make that big of a difference. So the key is to get your chainsaw mount up there, kind of next to your fork, and then to take your clamps. These ones have been used for many miles. But to take your clamp and feed the clamp through the slot on the chainsaw mount. Pretty simple. Then you want to take the bolt for that clamp and you want to run it through the bracket just like you see, right? So the way it goes is the stub of the bracket should be pointing out. Some people, will try to do it like this, and you'll never get it. You'll never get it in. So trust us. You want to make sure that stub is in the right spot. Do this bottom mount real quick. Through, around. Stub going the right direction there. Clamp it with your fingers. Get that mount started. Take your not advised to be used power tool. Don't tell mom. Sorry, mom. And just tighten that thing down. You want to start snugging it down. You don't want to crank it yet because you're going to move these posts inside and then finish it off with a hand wrench. Alright, so as you can see here, we've kind of dry fitted it, so you could say, to the front of the bike. We've left everything kind of loose. The clamps are loose. And the reason why we leave it loose is because you're really trying to get this pedestal in the right spot. So the goal here is to slide the panel left and right until that pedestal just barely clears your front fender. That's super critical, making sure that the saw blade doesn't dig into that front fender. It's also one of the great things about our saw is that you do have all that adjustability built into the mount. And then also you want to leave these bolts on the side loose so that you can get your in and out position correct. That way when the saw, let me grab the saw real quick. When this saw is mounted on the bike, you want to make sure that it's clearing your trail computer. The way you do that is with the adjustability in these mounts. And so we leave these bolts loose so that you can pull the mounts in and out. Once you have it figured out where you want it to go, you can make a slight etch mark on the panel where all the bolts are. Or you can just start tightening things up and making sure it doesn't move too much. This is really the final step in getting your panel mounted on your bike. And after that, you're pretty much ready to go. To mount your chainsaw onto your panel, again, let me grab the chainsaw. It's pretty simple. Mount your chainsaw onto the panel, you throw the chainsaw on the pedestal here, and then you use these supplied cinch straps to secure the chainsaw to the panel. And those are really robust and they're not going to cause any problems. One thing I'd also like to bring up real quick, everyone should be riding with a scabbard. This is super critical. The easiest way to make sure your scabbard stays with your saw is we've provided a handful of locations here for you to drill and bolt your scabbard directly to the mount. That is one way to ensure you never leave the scabbard on the trail or in the garage. It is critical that people ride with scabbards. A lot of people don't, but honestly, it's one OTB away from you know, having a fun, quick ride to the truck and a fun, quick ride to the hospital. So, always mount your scabbard. We've got provisions on the pedestal for that. So, if you have any questions, hit us up at ridegravitas.com, support at ridegravitas.com, or at our DMs on social media. We're there to help. Really, this is a super versatile mount. It shouldn't give you any problems, but if you did, let us know. We're happy to help. Yeah, have a good day. I hope to see you on the trail.